All right, welcome back to another edition of A Daily Stew. I'm Paul Stewart.
And I am Brian Wright still.
And together we're the Right Stew podcast. So, Brian, it's bowl season. First bowl game is today, the Cricket Celebration Bowl, Jackson State versus South Carolina State. So that's going to officially kick off bowl season. And then there's some bigger games to play. There's the CFP. But my question to you, do bowl games outside of the CFP now, do they really matter? Do they have the same significance they once did?
No, and honestly, Paul, I think for a long time those bowls haven't really mattered. I think that's the reason you see like true NFL prospects step away and decide that they're going to go train. They're done. They're done risking injury before they have an opportunity to cash in on payday. Maybe the NIL changes that a little bit as far as guys wanting to have an opportunity to prove themselves to the next team or whatever the case may be. But the portal was already opened. The first thing when you said cricket, I didn't think about the little phone. I thought about the sport cricket. I was like, why is
cricket
sport? Yes, sponsoring a bowl game. It's like, dude. So yeah, I don't know if they ever have. I think it's a neat experience. You allow a team to practice for another week or 2 weeks, but as far as it mattering, maybe for a contract a coach gets from 9 wins to 10 wins or 6 wins to 7 wins. Maybe somebody's getting paid somewhere. But we all knew for a long time if you weren't in the championship contender.
So I think you're right, Brian. You're on same track. I think along the same lines. If you're legitimately an NFL prospect, the bigger risk is getting hurt.
Yeah,
NIL does change some of that. If you're sticking around another year, maybe you're playing for, like, hey, maybe if you're in this 68 Ventures Bowl in Mobile, Alabama, maybe somebody locally from Mobile says, hey, I like this young man. I want to sponsor him or throw some money his way, right? So there is a little bit of that.
Hey, I saw where Deion was like, Deion Sanders was like, hey, my guys are playing. He's it's not debatable with him. He did say, my guys are playing. If you're not playing, don't plan on playing next year. Potentially, wherever Chalo and the receiver go, they're going to be playing in this bowl game. I think he's the exception.
You can say that if you have some leverage.
Right.
If they're a sophomore or if they're a draft prospect, he really can't hold anything over him, I wouldn't imagine. Like, hey, you're not going to play here next year. Okay, it's fine. I'm going to play for the New York Giants next year. No big deal. And that's his son potentially, right? But I think there's, and maybe that's what Belichick comes in and does. He sets the standard and says, hey, if you're on this team, you're on this team. And I think there could be some real reality set in for some of these young men where they get a real taste of real life or being a professional. If they say, hey, I'm thinking about transferring, and then Coach Prime or Bill Belichick or one of the says, you know what, you're thinking about if you're not all in, you're all out, and hit the bricks, right? And
they haven't used it, and it doesn't seem to have affected players a ton. I'm sure whenever these NFL scouts are looking to get all the details, all the meat and potatoes about a player, they're calling their coaches. And so to me, it never set right with me. You would want to go out there one last time and play with your boys. It never really set right. But on the flip side, I can see the argument, right, for a guy that's getting ready to
get. I mean, Christian McCaffrey sat out his ball game his last year in school, and it's been hurt every year in the NFL, it seems. But does it really matter? I get it from a. I mean, if you're investing in yourself, you put in a lot of time, effort, energy, and legitimately that game has no bearing on anything. Like you said, there may be a contract or extension or a bonus that a coach gets.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what they all these bowl games or used to hear in the Super Bowl. It was a big deal early on because players weren't making as much, and they would say, oh, well, this team got $10,000 each if they win the Super Bowl. Maybe they start throwing that money out there for these bowl games, and then they're a little more invested. But a big one last year, a big example too, Florida State.
That's where I was going.
Famously got snubbed, right, with the undefeated season. And then they get out there and just get drubbed in the bowl game because, their starters weren't playing.
Yeah.
And it made them look terrible. It's like, oh, well, Florida State did well. It wasn't their team, right? So hopefully the bowl games are competitive and fun. It's always a fun time to watch them. And the CFP certainly, I think, has sucked a lot of the excitement away from these other games. I know. So Brian, are you and the family or anybody? Are you guys driving up or heading up to the Go Bowling Military Bowl to see East Carolina play NC State?
I should probably if I was a real fan. No, no. I mean, here's the deal. Here's the flip side of this, right? You really don't even know are guys that are like in the portal, like Concepcion, who's in the portal. What he won't play in this, right?
No, no.
So you essentially don't even have the same teams. I'm not even sure. Honestly, I never really understood why bowls even existed outside of the championship bowls.
Maybe,
Yeah,
maybe we can deep dive into that and share a little more of the history of bowls and what they mean. And like 99.9% of things in life, I'm sure it goes back to somebody who's going to make some money. And so, you know what? Let's do this. So,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
And again, as a player, it's a fun experience, right? You go get some shoes, go get some gear, maybe some
Yeah.
headphones, and you go to a cool city, eat some food. You get it from
Yeah.
a coaching perspective. You get an extra couple weeks or week to coach your kids that you may not otherwise get in the same capacity. And so,
Yeah.
I mean, I see the benefit other than the wins and L's don't really matter.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So we'll be watching the bowl games, even though we just said they don't really matter. We still love watching college football, so we'll be watching those and with a special eye on the CFP for sure. All right. So I've got a new game we're going to play. I'm going to challenge Brian,
Not good. This should be the opposite, really.
and what we're going to do is I'm going to name 1940s New York Yankee baseball players and current NBA players.
Okay.
And the challenge is just based on the name, is it a Yankee or a current NBA player?
Okay.
Are you ready for this?
I am. I am.
All right. So the first one we're going to go with Bub Carrington.
Oh, it's a great name. Either way, um, it feels like a 1940s baseball player.
Well, Brian, you'd be wrong. Bub, officially named Carlton Carrington, is a Washington Wizard, went to Pitt University, and a 2024 first round pick.
Well, clearly, I'm an NBA fan.
Okay, so 0 for 1 thus far. All right, the next one, Spud Chandler.
I mean, there's a Spud Webb that's a great basketball, for his size,
There was.
contributed and what's a part of it. Now I'm Spud. I mean, this is a flip of a coin. It's funny how the unique names has really transitioned from 1940s baseball players to modern day basketball players,
Yeah.
culturally. This is a complete guess. Let's go baseball, just so I don't get too baseball player.
You got it. Nailed it.
Yes.
But Spud Chandler is one of my favorites to use on Immaculate Grid. So the 1943 MVP. So he was a pitcher. He went 20-4 that year, 1.64 ERA. Spud Chandler. Good if you're an Immaculate Grid player out there. If it's a Yankee, an MVP, Spud Chandler is a rarely used one if you're going for that sort of thing.
I would imagine so.
All right, next one. Johnny Furphy. Johnny Furphy. So like the name Murphy, but with an F at the beginning. Johnny Furphy.
Oh gosh, dude. I mean, it could go either way. I mean, Johnny's a great sports name. Either way. Let's go baseball again. Baseball again.
You'd be wrong.
One, I was figuring you would switch it up.
He's an Indiana Pacer, went to Kansas. So he went to a blue blood. He was a 2024 pick as well. So these guys are young guys. I'm not throwing LeBron James and folks like that out there.
I would get that one.
Yeah,
I would definitely get that one.
So Johnny Furphy. Watch it.
Again, great first name. Great first name.
All right, here's a good one. Haywood Highsmith.
I feel like maybe it's the same guy who did both, reincarnation. I'm gonna go I can't imagine you just switching back and forth. Haywood, let's go basketball.
That's right. He's a Miami Heat. Doing pretty well this year, averaging 7.3 points a game. Went to Wheeling University or Wheeling College.
Do you know where that is?
I would assume West Virginia.
Okay.
But Haywood Highsmith, a Miami Heat forward in his 4th season of the NBA. Here's your next one. Marius Russo.
Oh, what a great name.
Marius Russo.
Again, they're essentially interchangeable while we're doing it. I'm gonna go baseball. It's a complete guess.
You nailed it. You nailed it. Baseball player had a good 1941 season. He was an all-star. Went 14-10 with a 3.09 ERA. Marius Russo. Here's one of my favorite names on the list. Snuffy Sternweiss. Snuffy Sternweiss.
That's again great name. Can't be the the mother-given name, right? That's a nickname because nobody is naming their kids Snuffy coming out of the womb, are they? Unless they're.
I mean, I've seen some pretty wacky names.
Like Johnny, you can get that.
Yeah, I mean, Jonathan, Johnny, that makes sense. So Snuffy is not his government name. I'll tell you that.
Snuffy.
That's what he's listed
as. Let's go basketball.
Snuffy was a Yankee. Snuffy was a Yankee. Let's see. His real name was actually George Henry Sternweiss. So I think if I said George,
I would have got George.
Given it away.
If you'd have told me George Henry, I'd have been like, yeah, 1940s baseball.
So in 1944 and in 45, he finished 4th and 3rd in MVP voting, and in 46 was an All-Star. So Snuffy Sternweiss. All right, I got one more for you. One more for you. Shake Milton.
Shake feels like should be a basketball. Like you shake a guy. Yeah, shake.
I mean, the 1940s had some pretty colorful, as we've just seen, right?
I'm going basketball.
You would be correct. Shake with the SMU was a 2018 second-round pick, averaging 6.2 points a game this year for the Brooklyn Nets.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, basketball has some great names, number one. Number two, I've seen where their numbers are way down as far as viewership.
Yeah, what do you attribute that to?
I attribute it to the style, right? They're all shooting threes and dunking, and anything creative in the 2-point zone is essentially not considered a good shot. And so Curry has much of the impact that he's had as a positive on the game, and thinking every 6'2" kid can play in the NBA. The negative has been kind of widespread. That it's not that fun to watch.
Well, I'd say so. For us growing up, it was like, hey, be like Mike, right? There was the whole ad campaign, but not everybody could be like Mike. He did some things that were outstanding and extraordinary. But here's the thing: everybody kind of can be Steph Curry. Like he's one of the maybe best ball handlers of all time. Like he can dribble really, really well, right? He can handle the ball. But his game is dribble, shoot threes, right?
Yeah.
And it's really changed. I watch my son had a middle school basketball game. Kids were just jacking threes. No chance of hitting like the side of the backboard, missing the entire rim. But that translates to young kids. That's somebody they can emulate and literally kind of be on the court. Not as good, obviously. But how many kids can dunk from the free throw line? How many kids are throwing up, tomahawk jams? It's not as easy.
Yeah, and not many. And I would say it's just not as great a brand as watching. Like you said, if everybody can do it, you don't watch something on TV because you can do it, right? You watch something. The football guys, baseball guys, they're doing stuff that maybe at some point in time in your life you're semi close, but for the most part, you want to see things that you can't do. Whether it be, you could go even down the line of any of these YouTubers or anything where they're going to these different countries. You watch that because you can't do that. And I think it's kind of the same thing with the basketball experience. You watch it because you want to see a guy take a step and dunk, or take a step and fade away. And you're like, dude, but you see it. Now, Curry makes it look easy. Everybody clearly can't do what he does, but it's not a great brand of basketball now, to be honest.
No, and I agree. I think it's not as fun to watch, and the game is all. You used to have your specialists, right? Your Del Currys, your Glenn Rice, your Ray Allen. These guys who, that's what they did. They shot three, but they were really, really good at it.
Yeah.
Now it's kind of everybody's jack. Yeah, you got your 7-footers out there shooting threes. You got your 6'2" guys shooting threes. And the post game just is really it's kind of gone away. There's not a lot of post basketball.
Hey, Paul, you played high school basketball. How many threes did you shoot?
I shot one. I shot one on what was our senior night. And I remember, vividly taking the shot, and we were up probably like 20 or something. We had the game in hand, so I wasn't going to do it out of the natural flow, of a game. And so I got it, and I probably grabbed the rebound, I kicked it out, we ran up the court, the play kind of stalled, and I was trailing. And so for some reason, I got it right on the wing, and I was like, "Now's the time," because I'd always wanted to shoot a three. And so I pull up, and I remember as I'm shooting it, our coach goes, "No!" I'm like, "Oh, that's a lot of confidence in me there." And
it went up, go in.
Looked good, hit back rim, shot. So it was online, just a little strong. So it wasn't an awful shot, but I was not a good 3-point shooter. I was a grab a rebound, put back, a little bit of a post game, try to dunk as much as I could, and call it a day. So yeah, one 3-point. But again, that goes back in our there was true positions. Now it's very positionless basketball. And I think that's the European influence for sure. I'll get to the grave with this argument. Christian Laettner, maybe the best college basketball player of all time statistically. Talent wise, I mean, certainly there's other guys that have been more talented. But Christian Laettner, he gets to the NBA, and they try to make him a true 5, like a 4 or a 5, right? Down low. And that's not who he was. He was playing this Euro game in 1992. But the NBA guys are like, no, you got to be in the post. And so he struggled because they were trying to make him something he wasn't. Had he come up now, I think he's a real talent, like real good player in the NBA. And he had a good NBA career, clearly. But
right.
I think it took a while for teams to figure out, like, hey, he can do a little bit of both.
Yeah, and do a little bit of everything.
And so there's some good to it, right? And there's some bad to it. But I agree. It's tough. You think it's tough watching an NBA game, guys just jacking. Try watching a middle school basketball game where kids are even worse, just out there jacking threes.
Yeah, and I think the thing when you watch an NBA game that you have to appreciate is the athletic ability and just and if you're just shooting threes and maybe how you're getting those shots off, but that's the thing you notice, and I think you lose some of that.
Thank you all for listening. We appreciate all the positive feedback and comments. Make sure you subscribe, follow, like, and share us on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Apple Pods, Spotify, iHeartRadio. We're on all those platforms. Have a great sports weekend. We'll be back with more content soon.
Out. Go Pack.